of long time. We're gonna talk about the Cleveland former Indians.
Yeah,
A
it
year
kind of
ago,
it ties into football too because we talked about Washington, the Washington football team.
yeah, Washington football team. They have decided not to change their name yet. They're still going to be called the Washington football team for the
Yeah, they
next
ruled
season.
out one. They ruled out Warriors because they were
Yeah,
just saying like
they can't do anything
no
remotely. Yeah, yeah.
no Native American or Indigenous people
References to it.
associations.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nothing
that's
to
just
do
the
with
best.
that.
That's the best route. That's the
Yeah,
best
why
route.
not?
Yeah.
Just go with it with like standard football or do like a American like Patriot thing because it's DC. But with the Cleveland baseball team, I heard about this a while ago, like a week ago. They mentioned it. Now it's official. The official
Hmm.
thing happened this morning, I believe. The Cleveland Guardians,
Yeah, it'll go into
and
effect next year.
yeah, so 2022. But of course, you have the typical responses of it. There's the lighthearted Guardians of the Galaxy jokes.
Hmm.
There's other ones like, "What's next?" It's pretty much the same argument people would use like for like gay marriage, like, "Oh, you have two men marry. What's next? Him and a dog? Him and a tree stump?"
Yeah,
If they're doing the same thing with like, "All right, let's change the Braves. Let's change whatever."
yeah.
Um,
Somebody with the Guardians of the Galaxy, like somebody on the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
or the Indians or the Cleveland baseball team, as I should say. I don't want to use that term. They said, if Groot isn't our mascot, I'm gonna be pissed.
Yeah, I just saw that too.
Yeah.
I am Groot. I mean, then people are like, bringing up other examples. Like it was like a Mighty Duck team based on a movie. It's not that serious. I mean, to the point where the negatives outweigh the positives. Like of change of keeping it, it's not worth it.
Right. Okay. So let's get into the name. So Guardians. I've been to Cleveland once. Drove in, and once you drive is like a well. I came in from Pittsburgh, from Pennsylvania. So the way we drove in, you cross this bridge because it's Cleveland's on a lake. You cross this bridge. I kind of missed it when I was looking at it because at the end of it you see Jacobs Field or Progressive Field or whatever they're calling it, where the Guardians or Indians as they're known now play currently. It's right at the end of it, but these columns. When you go through like Tapansy or the Como, or Whitestone or Triborough, any of these bridges, there's nothing
RFK.
RFK. You don't see anything on no, you don't really look at the design and like the architecture. So I've been you know conditioned to not see these statues, but there's these statues. They call them the Guardians of Cleveland, and it's like some really cool like statues that kind of look like warriors or like soldiers or something like that. And they don't really have it's kind of like a mythical type of thing. It's not really associated with any type of culture, so it shouldn't really be offensive. The Cavaliers, I think a couple years ago, for their like alternate or their city uniform or whatever they call it, they actually incorporated those statues into their uniform. So the Guardians, they're incorporating them into their franchise. And the thing, I feel like, Mike, I feel like it's gonna be one of those things where you've seen me say it right now as they release the logo, but in like 2 or 3 weeks there's gonna be like an article and it's be like, oh, no one noticed this little reference in the logo. It's actually kind of like a nod to the Major League, the ball with the wild thing.
Yeah.
I think I'm like the only one that caught that because it's turned the same way as that ball in the logo, but it's like as if like when they were designing a logo, somebody was like, well, everybody wants us to incorporate Major League, so let's figure out some type of way to do it, but not be so like overt with it. So it's like you really have to look at it. Even the seams on the baseball, it's turned the same way. So it's like a baseball, and it has like the helmets, the two wings on the helmet of the Guardians, the statues. So I thought that was neat. They changed the word mark a little bit, so it's a different, like a little different font. Like the C is a little bit more squiggly. It's not the block letter C that they've been wearing for the last couple of years. But it's kind of like wholesale changes. They kind of kept the same kind of like typography. The same colors. It looked like the uniforms are kind of gonna be the same, but they're just gonna change like the lettering. And I was saying, that's actually kind of good because it actually, people are saying like, oh, if you're gonna change the name, why don't you change everything? It's lazy. Da, da. And I'm like, you know what? It's actually pretty good because hear me out when I say this. It shows how unnecessary Chief Wahoo, the name the Indians was, because it's like you could have had the same team, look the same, but have a different name, something that's not offensive to anybody. And I think the fact that they kind of kept things simple, like you said with the kiss, keep it simple, stupid. I think
Mm.
they kind of did that, but it's kind of like in a subversive way. It's like, yeah, see, we could have did this years ago, but y'all were holding on to something that was really not important to our identity as much as you think it is.
Yeah, at first glance, it looks like kind of like a parody, like a shirt of like you have a band T-shirt and then you have like a different TV show who uses the same font. Like you have like a guy who's doing the Kiss logo, but it's like for something else.
Yeah, like
Uh,
how we did,
you would buy on the
we,
internet.
we
Yeah,
got
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
the Looney Tunes thing, but it's Suge
Exactly.
Mooney. If anybody ever seen my tattoo, these are my initials, but it's done in the way of the White Sox.
And they already tried to distance themselves from the Chief Wahoo. I mean, Chief Wahoo's from like the late '50s. People think that's like their original logo. It wasn't,
Hmm.
but that was in the in the '50s. So they already tried distancing themselves with from that, but they would always sell the logo anyway on the website, so they were still making money off it. So they probably could have gotten away with more time of just still being called the Indians, but like the color and stuff would be the same. Now it's the Guardians. Everything's the same except for that. I really dig the whole major league thing you noticed. I was thinking more like Flash Gordon, like
Hmm.
Guardians. It reminds me of like Gotham City almost too, with those statues they have in the movies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, Buff
Perhaps
dudes.
that's perhaps that was like inspiration. Like, who knows?
Is Randy
Um,
Newman gonna sing the intro now? Is he gonna like talk about 2020 in the song? Cleveland. Just talk about the whole thing about
that
LeBron
I
winning last
was,
year.
what's interesting? They got Tom Hanks to
Yeah.
do the narration. He ain't even like he's from like Oakland. Like
Yeah,
he's not
no,
even
they apparently
Cleveland guy.
apparently he did theater there. They said back in the '70s or something like that.
Yeah, it's a shame
He,
like Charlie Sheen's like off his rocker. But what about Tom Berenger? Like they could have got Tom Berenger to come in and do
him
that.
running and pulling
Yeah,
his leg.
yeah.
I
Do the
mean, that would have been
voices.
perfect. He could have
I
did.
swear I seen there was some kind of it was no MLB Network. They did a special on like the '90s Indians, and I think it was narrated by Tom Berenger.
Yeah, they could have had him come out. He could play that character. He could play his character from Platoon and Born on the Fourth of July. He's an underrated actor.
Yeah,
You know,
shout out Tom Berenger. But I just want, yeah, like we said, it was a lot of like ignorant like Cleveland fan. Like on
not even Cleveland fans,
if
just
you
people.
open like the tweet from like ESPN about it when they showed the logos and stuff, like you seeing like a lot of people from Cleveland complaining, and then you seeing a lot of people non-fans. And I'm just thinking to myself, like for the non-Cleveland fans or people not from Cleveland, like what do you care? Like if the Twins or the Royals change their names, like would you give a damn? Like
No,
it's funny as hell. People cling to like these racist stuff more than anything. Like you do realize like clinging to Indians is like almost like clinging to like the Confederate flag. It's like
yeah,
defending the Confederate flag. And I felt bad because Trill Weathers on Tyler I am on Twitter, he was like he had to retire his tweet, the where the guys in like the war paint and he's dressed up
mm,
talking to like a actual Native American like protester. And he's like, it's not racist, and I'll tell you why, my friend. He's like,
yeah,
no, he had to he has to retire that tweet.
yeah. We spoke about that. That came up in the episode 9 last year when we talked about it.
Yeah.
Uh, it's
And
like in
then
that movie. It's like having the Chattanooga engines. Remember that in the Confederate States of America? They had all these like different names, and they showed
mhm,
like all these fake names that were like that.
uh,
Cleveland Indians. If you didn't know that was an actual team, you might think that logo was
that
made
one just kept
as a
it
joke.
came the same. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's funny because people was like, "What's so offensive about calling them the Indians?" Like, first of all, like, there's never been an Indian player in MLB history. There actually been two guys from India. The Pirates like signed because they played like cricket,
Makes sense.
and they never made it to the major leagues, and it was actually made into a movie, but it was starring our boy John Hamm as
Oh
like
yeah,
the
I remember that.
agent or like the something like that. But they changed it from the Pirates to like the Dodgers. And but those two, the two actual people, those were the two closest Indians, and it's already been like a proven fact that the only reason people call Native Americans Indians is because like Christopher Columbus was like a jackass, and thought he sailed to America and the Caribbean and thought he reached India and saw dark skinned people and just like, oh, all right, it's Indians, and it just stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he gets his own federal holiday. But shout out to the Cleveland Guardians. Oh, we'll remember this day. It's funny. Like people in like a year, like look at Washington football team. Like people are so. I haven't heard anybody slip their tongue and call them the Redskins like since like probably like a month and a half after they started playing. People are gonna get used to it and you're gonna forget it. Like nobody's like, oh my god, like why? Like they're the Washington Bullets, not the Wizards. Like nobody
Well,
cares.
Michael's didn't now Michael stop saying the Redskins like years ago?
A lot of people did.
Yeah, a lot of people did. So it's kind of like they had a nice little transition. It wasn't
Yeah.
abrupt.
Yeah, and it's it's,
Uh,
it's cool. It'd be nice, and like people like when it happens, and it's not gonna happen initially. Like people are gonna make their jokes like the first season, or probably not even the first season, like the first couple months in the season, and then like by the time October rolls around and they lose the division series in 4 games to the Yankees, it'll all be forgotten.
in NFL, Washington, they probably could have kept the logo if like 10 years ago they changed the name. Like remember like 15, 10 years ago they changed it to like the
Nah, man,
Arrowhead. The Arrowhead.
nah. I think all that shit needs to change. Like the
Oh, I'm
Braves.
saying no. I said they could have gotten away. Like they could have
Yeah,
subtly
they could have
done
got
it, but
away with it for like
yeah,
till like 2019, and then it would still happen. But all of these teams should just change. I mean, the Braves, Hank Aaron, we just like they did a really beautiful ceremony celebration with his wife at the All Star game. It was cool as hell. You literally don't even. It's again the same thing like Cleveland. Like you would have to change very little. Turn that tomahawk into a hammer and just call yourself the Atlanta Hammers.
yeah.
And imagine that instead of like Tom Hanks, like that intro video, you have like Future or like the Migos, or Break Bank, get Andre Three Stacks and Big Boy, get Outkast. Like you're telling me Atlanta, if you got Outkast and like new Atlanta like we ain't the Braves no more, we the Hammers, like we come hard or something like that, like like some kind of like thing. People will forget that they were the Atlanta Braves like that. But
Mhm.
I'm glad they did. Everybody, like, please listen because it was like a good, like, thoughtful segment that we did almost a year ago, if not more than that. Episode 9.